All right, this episode is with Tyler Forbes. By now, you've probably all heard he's killed Daggers, which is a target buck he's been after the last 2 years. Kind of replaced his. He was really after this buck called Wonder a couple years ago. We talked about that. He saw Daggers and really wanted to get this buck, and has been dialing in on him over the last 2 years. But this year, kind of took it to another level. And he was able to get Daggers early season, which is awesome. He got it on video. He put together a great video about the hunt, and also with some backstory. He got a lot of footage over the last couple of years, and really must have cataloged it well to be able to go and find all that stuff and put it into a nice story, which you can find on his YouTube page. Go to Anchor Point Productions. He and his partner Nate August run that page. But Tyler was the first one to strike this year, get a nice video going, and hopefully we're gonna see something out of Nate as well. He's got a giant that he's after, so he's staying patient and waiting for the right opportunity to kill that giant. Just hopefully start seeing him again, because I heard he's kind of gone ghost on him. But good luck there, Nate. No pressure at all. You guys just do it for fun and for the love of the game, and good things are going to happen. So without further ado, we'll get into this one here with Tyler Forbes from Anchor Point Productions. Another episode of the Hunt Suburbia podcast. Feels like it's the first time I've been back sitting at this table in a while, since probably pre-Hunt Stock. Hunt Stock happened. All this shit happened. Went right to North Dakota. Came back. Was prepping for the season. I think the last two podcasts I've done, there haven't been any video, and because again, I'm just so busy. But we're back. We're back at the table. We got Tyler Forbes.
You have been a busy man, dude.
It's been
Mr. Hunt Suburbia. You have been busy.
It's been crazy.
You've done a great job. This whole off season's been fantastic. So
no, I appreciate it.
Hunt Stock was, I think, the pinnacle of the off season, and I speak on behalf of probably a lot of people.
I appreciate it, dude. Yeah, a lot of hard work went into it, and I have been thinking about it a lot. I haven't been doing a lot of work on it post. It's been now about a month, a little more than a month since it's been over. All my work has been in my brain thinking about, the new moves. I was just telling you about a few cool ideas that we want to do next year.
Great ideas.
Yeah, we keep it fresh every single year with something new, have new announcements. Again, always propping up the content creators. And speaking of content creators, dude, your page, Anchor Point Productions. People who don't know Tyler, probably most of you guys do. Follow him on, go subscribe on YouTube, Anchor Point Productions, and then on Instagram it's Anchor Point East, right?
Anchor Point and East.
Okay.
For the Northeast.
Yep, you'll find him there. And dude, so we just premiered both of our videos. Tyler and I both got bucks early season here, which is sick. Like we just take a load off.
It's still not even, doesn't even feel real still,
And dude, Tyler's buck was an incredible buck, one that he's been after for years, called Daggers. But we just did a back-to-back premiere of those videos. Go check those out if you haven't seen them yet. And dude, let's just tell me everything about. I've obviously known over the years a little bit about Daggers, but tell me about where that started and how it all unfolded.
It's actually funny, man. So everything with Daggers started the same year I was ever on Hunt Suburbia podcast back in 2020.
Yep. You were one of the first, probably 12, 15. You were right early on as a guest.
I think I was number 6 or something. It was me and your buddy Christian Rice. And man, at that point, I'd never even have killed a deer.
Yeah, you hadn't killed one.
I haven't even killed a deer.
Yep.
So going back to 2020, man, it's like night and day. But I had a good season to start. I killed the doe fairly quickly in mid-October, and then I got my first buck early November. It was a 5-pointer, and then once I got that buck, it was just wow, I love this. I was hooked instantly. I just loved it, and
even before you killed deer though, you were hooked. You came here with
analytics, and
you had analytics going, and you had never even killed a deer. It's look at all of this shit that I've been doing.
Yeah, that was Wonder, the deer Wonder, the buck Wonder I was after. He disappeared 2020. Yeah, he did. No, he disappeared 2020, man. He disappeared November 15th, gone. So somebody got him.
Yeah.
Or coyotes got him.
But dude, even before you had killed a deer, that just shows your work ethic because I could tell that you were super into it. You were addicted, and you were gonna be a really good hunter. And you've, dude, the last 3 years, you've killed a lot of deer. You probably know how many. What?
I'm at 8 deer.
8 deer in 3 years, and a couple of really nice bucks. And this year, the best buck of your life, Daggers.
Yeah. Just man, just incredible stuff. But going back to 2020, my second buck that I killed in 2020 was a 9-pointer, nice buck. But kind of how the whole story started to unfold with Daggers was, I was a police officer in the town where I noticed this 9-pointer. Okay, I was doing an area check of a local construction company area. What we do every night as police officers and whatnot, you're checking the area. You know, it was kind of close to conservation, so you make sure the trails are safe and, you know, people aren't out there and whatnot. And it was a tremendous rainstorm. I'll never forget it. It was a tremendous rainstorm and a windstorm. And it was, I believe it was like December 1st, early December. And there was no snow on the ground at all. We didn't really get a lot of snow that year until like later in December. But I remember like going through this construction access road because they requested area checks at night, and I was on the overnight shift. So I remember going in there, you know, spotlighting the area, making sure nobody was in there and whatnot, and make sure all the equipment was, you know, safe and sound. And to the left, there was this massive hemlock, just a massive hemlock. And I looked under the hemlock, and there was this, you know, really decent 9-pointer. At that time, I thought it was a giant because, you know, I never even really I don't even know what the hell a giant was, you know? So I saw this buck laying there, and then he just stood up and slowly walked off. And it was funny. He actually had like a little limp to him. So fast forward to the next morning, I had a police training in Middleborough, Mass. So the whole ride to Middleborough was like an hour and 10 minutes. I was on the phone trying to contact the owner of that property, which was a construction company. Okay, so imagine trying to talk to the owner of a construction company to get permission to hunt, let alone get in touch with anybody at all. I was like halfway to Middleborough, and I ended up talking to the mechanic of that construction company, and he's like, "Yeah, what can I do for you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just trying to get in touch with the owner." He's like, "Oh, well, the owner's in Florida." You know, figures December, right? He's like, "The owner's in Florida. But his son's here who's running the show. He's the VP. I can get you his number." I said, "Okay, great." So still driving to my training. I end up calling this guy, and such a nice guy. I mean, really all the homeowners that give me permission to hunt are just unbelievable people. But he picks up the phone. He's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And I tell him my story. You know, I tell him where I work and what I was looking to do and if I could bow hunt his property. Not gun hunt, just bow hunt. I didn't even have a gun to hunt at that point in time anyway. And
this is just a property they're developing, not where they live.
Correct. Yeah. Nobody lives there. It's just a property where they're developing.
Yeah.
It was under construction and whatnot. And he's like, I asked him if I could hunt there, and he's like, "Yeah, I got no problem." He told me where to park and said, "Yeah, you're good all day. Just throw the note on your dashboard. Nobody's gonna mess with you. You're good." I'm like, "All right, cool." So training actually gets out early that day. I got out at like noontime. So, I already had all my hunting gear in the back of my car in my Ozonics bag. I had my bow and I had my tree stand. It was like a 90-pound tree. It was a 90-pound climber, dude. This thing was like, you walk 10 feet carrying this thing, you're sweating bullets. You know what I mean?
Was it really 90 pounds?
It was probably close to like 55.
Yeah,
crazy. It was insane, dude. So I get back to town where I worked, where this property was at like 2:00. And I drive to the site, throw on my gear outside, you know, spray up, and then I lug this big climber into a location to hunt. You know, at that point, I didn't really know much about hunting. Okay, so I picked the brains of a lot of people. And on this specific day, I remember Nate August, who's actually my partner for Anchor Point Productions. I always picked his brain, and he always gave me great intel and stuff like that. But on this specific day, too, I was talking to Pat Burns through Facebook Messenger. And, I knew nothing about hunting. And Pat was so generous and, very nice in helping out, a new young hunter, you know what I mean? And I remember sending him the topography map of this location. So Pat's got the location. If anyone wants to show up and hunt, come on over. But I remember sending it to him, and he's great, man. He looked at it and he's like, hey, he put an X on the map, and he's like, I think you should, try to like put a stand here. Go up in a tree in this location, you might get lucky. He's like, what's the wind? I told him what the wind was for the day, and he put an X on the map, and it was like in this exact same spot that Nate August had put an X to. So I go in there, I set the stand up, and it took me a while to set that up. I was still new to the whole game and everything, but I remember getting up in the stand. I was in the stand by like 3 o'clock, 2:45, 3 o'clock, and while I'm in there, I mean, the site was beautiful, leaves all over the ground. It was just like super relaxing. There's construction going on in the background. Guys are still working. It's just, it's an active construction site. Man, I tell you, it's just like, it's crazy how it worked, but 4 o'clock on the dot, you hear all the machinery shut off. The trucks shut off. You hear guys like,
beer cans cracking
Yep,
open.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like party ensues. You know what I mean? Guys are all pumped up. The day's done.
Yeah.
And then you hear pickup truck doors shut, and then you hear pickup trucks turn on, and then they're driving down the dirt road, legit in a single file line. Like it was like, I'm like, this is crazy. You know what I mean? That was at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
It got so quiet right at 4 o'clock, and it was like these deer knew exactly what was going on, man.
Well, imagine how many days in a row they'd been doing that dance, dude.
Yeah, talking about a pattern,
Yeah. They know, okay, it's loud. There's going to be people around for a long time. We'll hunker down, and every day, they're gone.
Yeah, as soon as it gets quiet, we're going out.
Real quiet.
Yeah.
We'll just get up and move.
Yeah, so it was 4 o'clock, man. And I look to my right, and there's a swamp to my right, and I'm like on a knoll, an oak knoll, and there's an oak flat like right beneath me. And there's a ridge coming out of the swamp, an oak ridge coming out of the swamp leading into that flat I'm at. And I look to my right, and I see 3 bucks come bombing out of the swamp right up the ridge like clockwork. And they just immediately stop at like 35, 40 yards in the oak flat where my tree stand is, or where my climber is. And they just start feeding. Now, I can tell you right now, like 2020, I was petrified to see deer because I didn't want to move. I think I still have a stiff neck now from not moving when they came in. You know what I mean? I didn't want to make any movement whatsoever because I didn't want to bump these deer or get blown out. So
that's a good way to think, though, when you're just getting into it.
Yeah.
Like, stay still.
Super still.
And it still is. You can still get picked off, but you do get away with a lot when you're up in the tree.
So I was so still, and I remember just slowly getting my phone. And I wasn't even filming at this time. Like, I didn't even know what the hell I was doing, period. But I was like, oh, you know what? This is cool. Instead of thinking to kill the deer, I was like, oh, I want to get footage of the deer so I can send it to my wife or my friends. You know what I mean? So I'm standing there, and I slowly get my phone out, and I remember 46 seconds of footage of these deers, and one of the deer was that 9-pointer from the night before. He was one of them. It was him, a 4-corner, and a 6-pointer.
How far away were they?
They were like 35, 40 yards at the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
so you could have
shooting
had your
distance
bow in
right
your
now.
hand.
Yeah, I could have had my bow in my hand, but I probably, I didn't want to shoot more than 20 yards at that point. So I remember my bow was to my left. I grabbed my bow. Like I did like a 180 in the stand super slowly, and like it felt like eternity. And I remember looking back at the bucks, and the 6 and the 4 were starting to like mingle and go back towards the swamp. And I noticed the 9-pointer was starting to do the same thing. He was at 27 yards. I ranged him at 27 yards, and man, I didn't know where the arrow was going. I just was hoping it was going center mass, and I just let it fly, and I smoked him. Like absolutely smoked him. I remember hearing it. I'm like, oh my God, did I kill him? And then I remember he ran off, and then I heard him crash, and the whole 9 yards. And at that point, I called my dad. I called my buddy John Rice. At the time, I called my buddy Brandon Ashford. They all came down, and as John Rice was the first one there, and as we were waiting for Brandon and my dad, me and John were just sitting on the construction dirt road, and he put a flashlight down the dirt road because he heard something. And at that point in time, I saw Daggers like a month earlier in November, just on duty, like chasing does, like just randomly chasing does. And I saw him twice, and I was like, wow, that buck's cool. Like, oh my God, that's a giant buck. I want to get a buck like that.
Yeah.
So.
And that was
That was like November, early November.
That was this year of him?
That was that year of him right there.
You saw him?
Yeah, that
Yep.
was him. The
Yep.
shed, yep, 2020. That was him. So he was chasing these does around in November, and here we are in December.
Broken main beam there, too.
Yep. Here we are in December in the exact same area where I saw Daggers in November. I shot that 9-pointer. So as we're waiting for Brandon and my dad, John shines down the road because he hears something. Well, it's Daggers. Daggers is crossing the road going exactly to that oak flat over the knoll
Where those other 3 bucks were.
where those other 3 bucks were where I
Yeah.
just shot that 9-pointer.
Yeah.
So Brandon and my dad get there, we go in, we recover the buck, and Daggers like bound off and went back from where he came from. So at that point in time, like I was like, wow, Daggers is kind of like that's a stud buck. Like Daggers wasn't really like Daggers at the
kind of a
time.
boss.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's the kind of buck I want to get. So the rest of December, man, all I had was doe tags. I was tagged out and from buck tags.
Oh, yeah, because you had the 5-pointer before that, right?
5-pointer and then the 9-pointer.
Yep.
So I was tagged out. So I put like, people were like, dude, you're an idiot. What are you doing? You're on doe patrol this much. I honestly hunted like 30 plus times the rest of December. Morning, evening hunt,
Yep.
sits and everything like that. And people were like, you're crazy. And,
Did you kill any does?
I did not. I shot at a doe and I missed her.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? But, for me, being out in the stand, even if it was just doe patrol, being a new hunter and new to the game, like that was the way to become a sponge.
Dude, it's a glorified.
Yes.
It's an observation sit over and
Yes.
over and over and over again.
I learned, I perfected getting into a stand.
Yeah.
I perfected getting out of a stand.
Yeah.
I saw deer movement. I figured out what deer were doing. I learned how to sit through like awful weather ailments. Like, elements. And it was a way for me to learn and learn in the field. And I remember the end of December, just before Christmas, Daggers walked by me, 32 yards. And I had no buck tags.
Yeah.
So I just watched. And this was before I filmed, so I didn't film, but I was just
But
like,
you could have killed him.
yeah, I was just in awe. I was in awe. I saw him. I'm like, wow. And then once the season was over, it was my mission to try to find his sheds. That's all I wanted to do. So I ended up finding his right side, like the end of January. And then I'm like, oh, this is awesome. But now I need to get permission to kind of hunt where I just found his sheds. So, I've only been hunting for a year, but I was like, well, I'm a police officer. If I tell my story, how I got into hunting, how I met my dad at the age of 28, and he was an avid hunter, and he got me into hunting later in life, and, maybe people will give me permission to hunt and things like that. So I ended up doing a knocking campaign, and I ended up getting like 6 different properties around that construction property. And it was just like game on from there.
What was your opening? Just a quick sidetrack. What's your when you knock on the door? What do you say first?
Yeah, so a lot of the time I just introduce myself. Hi, I'm Tyler Forbes. Before you say no, can I tell you a story? And then that kind of like makes them like second guess because like, what's he going to talk about that would even possibly have us give him a no before we even hear the story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you'd be surprised how many people are actually like, yeah, we'd like to hear your story. What's going on? And a lot of them are like, you're not selling us anything, right? Like, no, I'm not selling anything. I'm not a solicitor.
Just
I'm
an opportunity.
I'm just looking for, exactly, right? So that's kind of how like I kind of like start off things, And I always just make sure to like dress nice and be proper and have manners and be respectful and things along those natures. But I got all those properties. And 2021 in January, when it all, that's when I found that first shed. I mean, I just became in love with that buck. I mean, it was the first shed I ever found. Was Daggers shed. I've never shed hunted
That's so
before.
cool, man.
I didn't even know what shed hunting really was.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was a thing. It was my first year hunting, let alone shed hunting.
Oh yeah, I didn't get really into shed hunting until 2 years ago I went out a little bit. This past year I went out quite a bit.
Yep.
Because it's just a whole nother
Right,
level.
right.
It's a way to keep hunting alive for another 3 or 4 months. And yeah, you need to get in some good shape.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's really cool. And while we're talking about sheds, I don't want to sidetrack you too much, but looking at the 2 Dagger sheds, his main beam was broken off here, and what really stood out to me was that on this one, the same brow tine is broken off like this year when you killed
Yeah,
him.
so
The same exact one.
That was
and
2021.
at the same point too. It's
Yeah.
it's like just a little nub there now.
Yeah, I think he was an
Like,
aggressive little guy there,
He's
man.
aggressive, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I find that shed and it's like game on. So I have all these properties now, but for one, I have like 0 stands. I didn't even know what really like tree stands really were. Really, hang on stands. What the hell was a hang on stand? I didn't know anything.
You're still brand new.
So I'm still new to the game. So I'm just picking the brains of everybody. Like I said, Pat Burns. But I'm reaching out to just anybody and everybody. And if there's one thing I can tell anyone getting into hunting is don't be scared to reach out to people, even if it's somebody that may seem like they're so well advanced. Don't be afraid, because there's a lot of guys that are very humble and they're willing to help you out. And you'd be surprised. There are some people that will talk smack and not give you a light of day, but those are the people that you don't want to surround yourself around anyway.
Yeah.
So I just was on a mission after 2020 to learn as much as I could and as quickly as possible. And I lived it. I lived hunting. I researched things on YouTube. I watched YouTube channels. I was on the internet looking at things. I was looking at topography maps. I talked to Nate, like I already stated, my partner for Anchor Point. I talked to Nate every single day, dude. I talked to Nate for a year straight before I even met him in person on the phone. Like, just crazy. Like, I would sit in my cruiser and just chat with him. That
happens a lot.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like Neil Pendleton. Like, me and Neil,
Yeah.
we shoot the shit all the time.
And I think it happens a lot between hunters.
Right.
And that's a cool thing about hunt stock, too, is like a lot of people. This one of the main things I heard was the people that I talked to on Facebook or exchanged messages or comments and all this stuff in these little communities that we have, they're finally able to put faces to names and make a real connection there.
Right.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that our community is like that.
Yeah.
Man.
And one of the guys that I really started talking to and kind of really took me under his wing and was very open to helping me
Jake
learn was Jake, man. Yeah. Me and Jake Bennett, we've become very close friends, and he's very willing to help out. And dude, Jake's just so blunt, he's just like me. He's just like, he gets to the point, man. Like, you say something that's like he doesn't agree with, he's going to tell you, and I appreciate that. That's what you want in a teacher, you know what I mean? So Jake kind of like started out as like a teacher for me.
Yep.
He was just more or less a teacher, a mentor.
Professor?
A professor, yeah.
If you will?
Yeah.
Professor
Dr. Bennett. But that's kind of how like relationships start, you know what I mean? And then we just talked more and more, and he taught me more and more and showed me more and more. I'd send him trail cam pictures, and he's just a good dude, man. And our relationship has blossomed into a great friendship. And going into 2021, I started another production company with another individual, and everything was working out great. And I felt a lot of pressure really to succeed. And if there's anything that I regret in 2021, it is more or less putting too much pressure on myself. Mm-hmm. I lost what fun was. Here I am, a year 2 hunter, and I completely forgot what even hunting was about.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure, and then, you start getting pressure, you start getting frustrated, and things just don't work out. So 2021 was frustrating, man. Like, my main goal was to get Daggers, and I didn't even see him. He came on trail camera. He daylighted on trail camera on an Oak Ridge, which is a piece of property I had, October 14th at like 11 o'clock in the morning. And I made a move mobile to try to get close to him because I knew exactly where he was bedding on that ridge. And I didn't want to push the envelope because it was early season, so I think I set up like 400 yards away for an evening set, and it was super warm that day. I didn't see him at all. I had a couple trail cam pictures of Daggers throughout 2021, but to be honest, I didn't really have much. I didn't have many pictures at all. There was a guy who hunted very close by that had acres and acres of food plots, okay? Like acres of food plots, and I became very close with him as well. He's buddies with Joe Hall. His name's Steve. He's a great guy. Become very good friends with him, and I'm very good friends with Joe Hall. He got Daggers on trail camera like clockwork, dude, in those food plots. I mean, clockwork.
In 2021?
In 2021, last year. And all I could think about, I was like, why is that? Like, I get it, food plots, cool, but what's going on here? And then I just started researching more and more, and I started learning about deer behavior and food sources and in bedding areas, and talking to other people, and I realized like my acorn mass was awful last year where I was.
Oh yeah,
It was terrible, man. Like
that's what it's
zone
like this
10,
year.
It was so.
Open a window, keep going.
Yeah, so I learned that like I had primo area to hunt, but the acorns were just awful.
Yep.
And that makes sense. Daggers was going to the plots because the acorns were terrible, and where I hunt specifically in that area, it's like the best of the best when it comes down to oaks. So I'm very fortunate in that. But the acorns were terrible. So Daggers wasn't really there. There weren't really a lot of bucks there last year. They were pretty much all on these food plots. So I didn't kill a buck until December 7th, and it was just a 6-pointer, but it was a super cool 6-pointer. And actually, the gentleman who has those food plots let me hunt his property for Daggers. And
that's cool.
Yeah, he's a great guy, very nice guy.
Probably killed a ton of big bucks in his life.
Tons, man, tons.
So he's like, so anybody that you've ever met who's killed a ton of big bucks, it's like there is a point where it's like, I think, it's enough. It's not going to be, I still want to go out and do it. I want to get big bucks, but they just enjoy putting people on.
His name's
deer.
Steve Cummings, and he's just such a nice guy, and he let me hunt there really to try to get Daggers, and it just wasn't happening, you know what I mean? And it was getting later in the season. It was December 7th, and I ended up killing that 6-pointer December 7th. It was still a great time. It's a great buck.
Fresh snow on the ground,
Yeah,
if I recall.
Yep, I was super. Yeah, it was. I was super happy with him. But again, the frustration of the season it just wasn't what I had expected, and I learned a very valuable lesson last year. Was it's not always going to be what you expect. You're going to have roadblocks. There's going to be frustrating times, but if you just keep keeping on and keeping a positive, optimistic mindset, things can happen. So,
well, let's break that down a little bit. I want to just talk about it a little bit because there are a lot of people who want to start YouTube pages and podcasts and get into the content creation game and self-filming and all that stuff, right?
Yep.
And it is the more people who want to do it, the better. And if anybody wants to, and you want to come to Huntstock, you can come for free. If you have a content page and you're putting in the effort, if you just like create one, the week before Huntstock, and like you're just trying to do it to get a free space
ride,
there,
right.
then I'll sniff that out. But if you're like into it and you want to create content and advance all the conservation and hunting and spread that and attract new hunters, that's what we're all about. But why is it? Why were you putting so much pressure on yourself? Do you think it was like...
Man, I just think, growing up, always being a competitor, playing sports my whole life. I mean, I went to college and played baseball.
Yeah.
I've just been always very hard on myself for perfection. And for me, perfection in the hunting world last year was to kill a big buck and get it on film.
Yeah.
That's a tremendous amount of pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
especially
just
as a second-year hunter.
Right. And I lost the meaning of hunting.
Yeah.
I forgot what it was to just have fun and make memories.
Yeah.
And that's truly why I was doing it in the first place.
Yeah.
Here I am saying I want to film my hunts so I can secure these memories so I can watch them over and over again, but I was chasing something that was not really realistic.
Yeah, so what do you think it was that was it like? Because I know I struggle sometimes even thinking about it. I read Matt Ranella, Stephen Ranella's brother's whole column on, breaking down what's the point that why, if you actually think about it, why do you post a harvest pic on social media? And when you let your ego go and everything, you go, oh, it's to get a little bit of attention, some likes, some praise, and all that.
Correct.
And I agree. And it makes me sometimes think like, maybe I'm not going to post harvest pics this year because of that, or kill pics and stuff. So when you break down, you think about it, it's like, all right, you're being honest with yourself. It's like, yeah, I was doing it to try to build something or get more followers or whatever. Do you think that was a little bit of what was going on? You're like, I want to get more followers. I want to have this page that's going to, like, what do you think it was?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we're all proud of the good things that we do. But for me, I just lost sight of the reality of being a year 2 hunter. I wanted to be this guy that was shooting 150, 160 inch deer in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell was I thinking?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like a lot of maturity has happened in a year since then.
Yep.
And I was just putting pressure on myself, but I was also putting pressure on my own team, adding frustration to it, and things just didn't jive, and it is what it is. We talk about that on a different day, but on a personal level, I kind of lost what I was really trying to accomplish, and that was to just have fun, secure memories, and create memories.
Yeah.
So that's really, everyone wants to be the guy that's holding this big buck and smiling, and everyone's like, great buck on these forums and things like that. Like, yeah, that's all great. Like, it's so fun to be able to do that and to show off your harvest, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you want to show off what you did because hopefully you put a lot of hard work into getting that harvest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
but
it's like with anything else.
Right.
Yeah, if you were a bowler and you spent so much time trying to be a great bowler and then you win a championship, like you want to put your trophy in a case.
Yeah.
Or in our case, it's on the wall, right? And it's like you want to display it and have a little. It's like I'm proud of that.
Right. So last year, I mean, I put a lot of hard work into the off season. Like I worked hard, man. Like I worked hard, very hard, and it just. It wasn't a disappointing season at all. I shot a 6-pointer, I shot a 9-pointer before Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
That's a great season, but I forgot that it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? So here I am, October, November, getting nothing but 2 does, and I'm thinking I'm having a bad year because you just put yourself on that pedestal to perform.
Yeah.
When at the end of the day, man, just have fun,
Yeah.
enjoy yourself.
And
that's what I changed this year.
I think that's the point I want to get across to people who watch it, or like if do not get into being a content creator thinking you're going to make money. And we were talking about this before this started. Like, the hunting industry is not an industry that is like, oh, you're making videos, here's $20,000.
Yeah.
No,
That's like, here's a pair of socks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hunting industry is built around and has been for a long time. And I don't know like how it was in the old days where it was the big TV deals, the Outdoor Channel ran stuff. I do hear those guys made some good money, right? But if you're trying to like build a page or whatever to like make money, it's not going to happen. It might be a real long game, but for people who want to peek behind the curtain on this podcast and how hard I work on this channel and everything, I think I've made $6,000 total over 3 years in cash on sponsorships. Right. It's not a lot. It's like for all the freaking amount of time that goes into it,
you've done,
it is nothing.
Correct.
It is absolutely nothing.
Nope, it's nothing.
You get some free stuff every once in a while. And that's if you actually like put a lot of time and effort into it and stay consistent.
Correct.
You cannot make it your day job. So like don't get into it for that reason. Get into it for just having a fun time, documenting everything, and get into it for, like you said, you just started learning how to edit.
Correct, yeah.
Edit film. You didn't think you'd be an editor, but like these journeys start one place.
They do.
And then it betters you as a person.
It's 100% true. And once you have like that passion for something that you just learn, like it's really sky's the limit. You know what I mean?
Like you are way better than me at editing and filming and all that stuff, dude. Just like looking at those premieres, like yours is just way better put together, and you can tell that you are passionate about it. You really are taking your time to learn and get better at the editing and the film and the storytelling part of it and all that. Like it really shows through, man. And
I've had a great teacher. Nate's a phenomenal editor. I mean,
Nate's stuff was incredible.
He's unbelievable, dude.
Yep.
He blows me out of the water, and but it's good having somebody like that in your corner and on your team because their quality that they're producing automatically makes you have to step up your game. So, going into this season and starting Anchor Point Productions with Nate, it was a completely different mindset than last year. We went into this season with the mindset of just having fun. There's absolutely zero deadlines. When content is created, we'll push out content, and let's just have fun. And that's what we've done, and it's really been an unbelievable off season and early season so far. Starting out, with scouting and doing a couple, mini episodes leading up to bear season in bear camp in Maine.
Yep.
And now here we are in Rhode Island and Massachusetts starting out, and I mean I even hunted New Hampshire too. I've passed on a few deer and just nothing that I wanted to shoot. But going into this season, I knew I wanted to focus solely on Daggers. Not putting pressure on myself, but I knew that if the acorns were good this year, I would have a chance at Daggers. The beginning of December last year, I stopped hunting in that area where Dagger's core area is in those acorns where I saw him the year before. I just stopped hunting there completely. I didn't even go in there until
And
shed
you weren't
season.
tagged out at that point.
I was not tagged out at that point,
Yeah.
but I knew the food source there was not where it needed to be. And yeah, sure, I may have gotten lucky and maybe ran into him, but I just did not want to do any harm to that area. So I completely avoided that area going
The acorns
into.
weren't there.
They weren't there.
Yeah,
They weren't.
And if you're hunting a late season deer, you need to be where there's still food. And if there's not, there's no reason.
And that was
to
the
be in
food
there.
plots, man. The food plots, and the food plots are like Daggers. Daggers core area is less than a mile radius, and people say, "Oh, how the hell do you know that?" Well, I know that because I spent almost every single day of every single week trying to figure out where this guy was. I'm looking at topo maps. I'm driving around. I'm trying to figure out where he is. I found his sheds the exact same place, 60 yards apart, back-to-back years. So I knew where he was in the winter. And I knew where he was in the fall, depending on the food source. I knew if the acorns were good, I'd be lucky. I knew if the acorns were bad, well, they'd probably be over at Steve's where they were back in 2021. So going into 2022, I had a lot riding on the food source, which were the acorns. But really what my plan and my strategy was going into 2022, going after Daggers, was trying to find where he was the first 2 weeks of the season. Based off all my, based off all the intel I had on Daggers, I knew where I had a gist of the area where he was early season, such as the summer, based off the previous year. Just from seeing him crossing roads, seeing him in fields, just normal intel that you absorb and you see for yourself driving around, and being a police officer, you drive around a lot. So hey, I'm still doing my job, but I'm certainly deer scouting too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was this one spot where based off the topography map, it just looked like an absolute sanctuary for bedding. Like it just looked perfect. It looked like it would be a great place where deer would be secure, and safe. And I asked permission to hunt there 2020 and 2021, and the homeowner said, absolutely not. You cannot hunt here. I said, okay.
You were knocking on the door?
Yes.
And it was like, were they quick shutdowns?
First year was a quick shutdown. Second year,
It was like, get off my porch, essentially.
they were just like, yeah, we don't like hunters.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was legit.
We don't like hunters.
Yeah, we don't like hunters. Okay, see you later. You know what I mean? So I just walked
We
back to my
don't like
car.
hunters.
And,
That's a very bigoted,
and that was 2020. And make no mistake about it. Like, super new to hunting, but personable skills. I still have personable skills. So why? I'm still gonna put myself out there and ask. Because what's the worst that happens? They say no. All right, whatever. Like I don't. Really
I just
care.
think and I don't like to be political, but like they were probably liberals, and they want to pretend like they're open to everything and progressive, but they put all hunters into a box.
Yeah, they probably thought I was like Elmer
don't
Fudd,
like hunters.
Yeah, I don't like hunters. That's legit what they said, and I remember I'm like, all right, that's fine. I didn't even mention I was a police officer, in that town. I didn't even, I don't really mention that unless I ask.
Yeah.
So going into 2021, I asked the same thing, and they said absolutely not. All right, so that's 2 years shut down. Going into 2022, getting back on track. I knew my opportunity was going to be early season for Daggers because I'm thinking in the back of my head, 2020, he was over there a ton in the Oak Ridge, and where I had permission because the acorns were great. 2021, the acorns sucked.
Yeah.
We can either have another good acorn season in 2022, or it's going to be terrible. Where do I want to be in 2022 early season? I want to be as close to those food plots as possible early season, before the acorns are even ready to be eaten, you know what I mean? So that same house that they told me no twice, I end up getting a call there in March of 2022. I end up getting a call there, was it 2022? No, it was 2020, late season 2021. So it was like end of December. And I realized that the homeowners weren't the same homeowners that said no to me.
Huh.
They moved out. New people moved in.
Wow.
So I kept that in the back of my mind. And going into 2022, I remember going there. I wore khaki pants and a flannel shirt. And I remember knocking on the door. The people remembered me from being a police officer in the town. And I told them my story. I said, listen, I'm after this. I'm after, a white-tailed deer, a buck. I've been after them for a few years. This is going to be the third year. I'm not sure if you like hunting. I don't know if you, understand what we're doing, but can I tell you my story? And they're like, yeah, sure. We'd love to hear it. The homeowner, they were great people. He had the same name as me, so that was kind of cool, But we were on a great level because I was there months prior, keeping them safe and helping them out in a stressful situation. So I already had the trust right there with them. So I told my story, and I was like, I don't want to gun hunt in your backyard. I would like to just bow hunt. Yeah, no problem. What? Yeah, we don't care. As long as you park under the basketball hoop in the driveway, yes. you're all set. Yeah. And you'll actually see in the episode, you'll see part of, in the beginning,
yeah.
You can see my car parked under the basketball hoop. So I got permission, man, and it was on, man. Like, it was on. I waited till after turkey season to go back there. Because I just wanted to see the vegetation at a star point. I wanted to see what was out there. I wanted to see, if there was possible already beds there. I just wanted to see a little bit of everything. But I waited till after turkey season, and I remember walking out there, man, and it was super thick. But it was like a good thick. Like, you get up in a tree stand, you're overlooking they cannot see you. Yeah. It was like a good thick. It wasn't laurel at all. I mean, we're talking like residential thick area, but it was thick where if you're above that thickness, you can see them, but they can't see you. It was mint.
It was thick, THICC, not THICK, bro.
Like big girl thick. So I'm walking back there, and man, I'm seeing rubs everywhere. Like, rubs were absolutely everywhere. And I'm like, all right, this is a good sign. This is great. I'm like, oh, I see a bunch of bushes over there. That looks like a nice buffer. Oh, there's an overgrown grass cut right here. That's nice. Beds were in the overgrown grass cut. And I'm telling you right now, man, some of these beds that I saw, I was just like, wow, there's a whale bedding in here. Like, they were massive. And the only thing I could think about was, like, I think Daggers is living here. I think I just found the missing piece of the puzzle. And if it's not Daggers, it's another decent buck. I mean, the sign was crazy. It was like a sanctuary. I immediately got out and I put a trail camera in there. And I've had a trail camera in there since that day. Mobile, I just use a Moultrie camera so I can stay out of there. All of a sudden, I start getting more and more pictures. You start seeing these big nubs, you know what I mean? And you don't know what the hell they are. You don't know who they are, but it's still nice to see them, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, he's got big bases. This is going to be a big buck. You don't know what the hell, you don't know what it's going to be.
You got beer can bases.
But I just remember just watching and watching and watching, and then come like end of May, man, I'm like, that's Daggers. Dude, Daggers was in that place all summer bedding. I mean, all summer. He was living there. I had him going into bedding at like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and coming out to go to the field directly across the street at like 5, 6, 7 at night. And obviously it gets darker later in the summer. So
was he crossing the street every night?
He was crossing the street, dude.
Yeah.
So it got to the point where...
They do that a lot.
Yeah, they do. So it got to the point where I kept watching and watching and watching, and I'm like, this is going to be my main spot. And when I first found out that was a sanctuary right after turkey season, I immediately put up a tree stand. And I immediately started cutting lanes just to have them already cut before the vegetation grew out of control.
Yep.
So I already had a stand in there. I had a trail camera in there. We were good. We were golden. Dude, I would park on the side of the road. And just driving by this particular spot, I knew where they were kind of crossing, but by knowing that, I would drive by. You could see a run legit coming to the road and crossing the road.
And by the way, you can see that a lot. If you're a savvy road scout,
dude, yeah,
you can see those trails.
Yeah, and I'm in a cruiser for a living, man, so I see a lot.
Dude, and it took me a long time, and probably took you a year at least to start being like, oh, there's little tiny subtle details that you can see that is a deer trail.
Yeah. Oh, that's not people walking there? That's deer.
There's a tiny gap between two leaves of two vines that go through, and you're like, it opens up a little bit, and you just go, oh, and you look down, it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's very subtle to someone who's new, but if you start to look at it, that's a deer trail.
100%. So I actually like August, like I'm watching Daggers grow and grow and grow, and I'm like, wow, man, he's gonna be a beast. You know, typical 8 again. You know, big 8. He's always been an 8 since I've been after him. He's never been anything more, never been anything less. Besides last year, he broke both his brows.
Keep seeming to find her 8s.
Yeah. So I remember parking in August. I parked on the side of the road and waited till last light.
Yeah.
Just to see if they'd cross, just to kind of hone in on that pattern. You know what I mean? And man, sure shit, 2 does crossed that exact run, and then another buck. He's like a number 4 there. He crossed, and then the wingspan buck, my number 2 buck, which I had on film on the second hunt of the season this year.
That was the one you sent me.
Great buck, yeah,
Yeah,
that
that
wide buck, yeah.
He
He's
might even
good.
score more than Daggers.
He could, man. I hope he makes it this year.
Big buck.
He's good. He crosses, and now it's like just getting dark. And I had this all filmed, man. I can't tell you how many people walked by, going on an evening stroll, husband and wife, looking at me sitting in the car with a camera. They probably thought I was trying to friggin' case the place, dude. I would lift up my phone and pretend like I was broken down, waiting for somebody to come and help me. You know what I mean?
I've done that.
Yeah, because I just felt like a sketch ball. You know what I mean? But
Who?
dude,
What? You just pretend you're on a car. Not even in that scenario,
right.
but just like, oh shit, I don't want to talk to that person.
Exactly. So it's like getting super dark right now, and all of a sudden, Daggers pops in the middle of the road. And he's standing in the middle of the road, and I'm getting my camera up, and it's getting dark, so I'm trying to focus it. I'm trying to focus the
car
camera.
accident right now.
I'm trying to focus the camera. It's super blurry, you know what I mean? I'm like, dang it. And then he runs right back from where he came from.
Yeah.
Back from like where my stand is and where that property is. I'm like,
Something wasn't
I'm like,
right.
what did he do? Dude, a guy's riding a bicycle down the road towards him with a little headlight on it, so he scooted out. It's
Fucking bikers.
I'll send you footage. It's unbelievable, the footage I got. But I didn't want to put it on my episode because it showed mailboxes and stuff and street names, and I don't want people to know where that spot is, because people know where I specifically hunt in this town. I mean, people know. It's not. People know, but people don't know where this honey hole was.
Yeah.
I've never told anybody where this particular small little 1.5-acre piece of land is. So I didn't want to put that in the episode. But anyhow, it just shows the effort I was putting into it.
You gotta learn how to blur out.
I know,
That's
right?
your next step in editing.
Yes.
And that dude, it's a pain in the ass, because I forget why I wanted to blur something out one time, but you'll figure, just go do a YouTube tutorial. But it's like,
I'm sure you got a lot of good tutorials about blurring stuff out.
If you're staying still, it's pretty easy. But if your camera's moving at all, it's like you gotta have the blur to move around.
Trust me, dude. I'm a professional at that with my TikTok, with being a cop and my badge. I gotta blur that thing out all the time.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Get in trouble on TikTok, man. So anyhow, going in, now it's summertime, and I'm just the mile radius that Daggers had. It was his core area. It was only a mile radius, man. And the reason why I know that is because I had him on trail camera in February when he January when he dropped his antlers. I had him in April, and you can, you pick identifiers out how you know what buck is what. I mean, you just do, you know what I mean? And I knew it was him, and he was always around, and I always kept tabs on him and whatnot. And I knew early season was really like, I had to do it early season. So where that Oak Ridge is, like 800 yards away, is a swamp. And it's that swamp where those deer came out when I shot that 9-pointer.
Yeah.
So I specifically went into that swamp during the summer this past year, knowing that clearly in the past, bucks have bedded in here. So I went into that swamp with the mindset of, if I'm going to kill Daggers early season, and he's over on this side of his core area on a hot day, he's probably going to bed in here. So I found a bunch of sign. I saw a couple runs, and I actually threw a bunch of brush and just blow down trees into this main run that they were actually using that was running a creek. And I stuffed it so it made them actually have to cross the creek. So if they had to cross the creek, my stand was in between 3 oaks, and I'd have like a 20-yard shot. So my whole thing was to try to manipulate these deer to move the way I wanted them to move, not how they wanted to move. So I did that in like July. And I go back in there to change out some battery cameras, and I notice that stuffing that run is actually helping. They're actually going where I want them to go, and they're crossing the creek, so it's working out perfect. So I put a stand up there specifically for a hot day early season. That's it. Not to sit there otherwise. I wasn't going to sit there at all unless it was a hot day. That's it. So season finally starts. I get Dagger on absolute my radar. He's daylighting all the time. Everything's perfect. Going to the honey hole opening day, and I get up in the honey hole, and I'm in the stand, and I get in there super early. I went in for a morning sit. I didn't see anything, but I'm like, I'm going to go back in there for the evening sit. So I get in there super early. Like, we're talking like 12:30 in the afternoon. I have this doe and 2 spikes working in front of me at 1:30. So this is like primo betting. I knew it was good betting, and that just like proved that it was betting. These deer, they're up and walking around at 1:30 in the afternoon, October 3rd. I mean, I'm like, this is mint. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like something's gonna happen today, hopefully.
And Daggers just looks so comfortable.
Dude, so comfortable all summer. You know what I mean? All summer. So I'm sitting there. I let these 2 spikes work to my right, which is to my east. I got a perfect wind, a northwest wind, just perfect. And then the doe, was with the spikes. Obviously the mama doe. She was a big girl, and she's standing legit like 16 yards to my right. Like I got my camera arm pointed to her, but I'm actually looking at the screen of the camera. I'm not even looking at her because I don't want to move. And then all of a sudden she turns around and she looks where those spikes were. I'm like, all right, finally she's getting the hell out of here, you know what I mean? So I can actually move. Dude, I look to my right and Daggers is standing right next to those spikes, 17 yards away. I'm like, are you kidding me? Dude, it's 1:30 in the afternoon. All of a sudden the doe walks away, heading back to bedding, like through a bunch of like thick stuff. I had no shot on Daggers whatsoever, period. It was just super thick. He was behind trees, but I saw his rack.
Yep.
So I got great footage of him, and then and that's that. So I'm like, all right, well, let's see what the evening brings us. You know what I mean? 5:15 p.m. Daggers comes out all by himself, and if you guys watch the episode, I highly suggest you do. You can just see what he's doing. I mean, he's eating maple leaves. He's rubbing his antlers on trees, licking branches. He's making
footage.
scrapes.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just majestic to watch, and he was 57 yards away. He was 65 yards away to start. He got within 57 yards. I mean, I had an open lane to shoot him. I don't feel comfortable shooting anything more than 35 yards. I wasn't even going to dare try to shoot him. I was just getting as much footage as possible. And I knew it was early. It was early in the evening where I'm like, oh, dude, like, he's going to probably make his way over this way, hoping to go to those ag fields. I'm like, this is going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Dude, 57 yards. He's in that open cut, the overgrown grass. I'm sitting there. He beds down. He beds down at 5:30 p.m. right in front of me, just teasing me. His antlers just going through the grass, laying down, snapping his neck like you do when you work 20 hours straight and you're tired. You know what I mean? And I'm just getting footage of this. I'm like, this is unbelievable. At this point, dude, I didn't even have buck fever because I was watching him for so long just sit there. Like, buck fever gone. Like, dude.
That's like what it was in North Dakota. The first couple times we saw elk, we saw tons of elk. We were watching them. We're like, holy shit, this is incredible. And then by the time, we saw so many elk.
That's another
every
elk.
single day. It was like, oh, yeah, no more jitters.
Yeah, it was just crazy, So that was 5:15, 5:30, he bedded down, dude. And, man, from 5:30 to, it was like 6:50. I stayed till 7:02 maybe. 5:30 to 7:02, man. I started slowly packing up at like 6:55.
You still saw him bedded there?
He was still bedded there.
Yeah.
So, dude, a lot of people would have probably tried to get that arrow through. A lot of people probably would have taken that shot and say, hey, this is my only opportunity.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? And I just remember putting my arrow in the quiver and I wanted to shoot. I was like, I'm going to shoot. And I just remember, I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not going to shoot. I put my arrow in the quiver. I actually left my camera arm in the tree because I knew it was going to take make too much noise. I slowly got down my stand, and I had unbelievable entry and exit access of this property.
And you had a set stand, which is great.
Yes.
No climbing, no nothing, no disassembling.
Dude. Nothing.
Yep.
So I'm very, very keen on my entry and my exit. If I have
extremely important.
If I have a private property I'm hunting, I have a pre-hung stand for a specific reason. So I got out of there lickety split. He had no clue I was there. Wind was still in my favor. Everything was good. So what are you going to do day 2, man? I'm going right back to that stand. If he's out there like that, he's going to be out here again today.
Very similar to all the same shit that I did in this deer.
Right?
Yeah.
So I go back to that same spot. I don't even hunt in the morning. I just go. I get there at like 11:30 because I'm like, oh, if he's coming out at 1:30, I want to be set. Blah blah blah. Wingspan buck comes out, man. At 1:00 in the afternoon, dude.
Yeah,
not even Daggers.
You
man.
are right in the bedding.
Yeah, not even Daggers, man. The Wingspan buck comes out. He comes in. I'm like, oh man, like chocolate rack wide. Like this buck's nice. He comes into 40 yards and he stops. I was so far into betting, man, that spike horn from the day before, one of the spike horns from the day before, was bedded like 30 yards to my left and a bunch of like thicket and briars that I didn't even know he was there. So that Wingspan buck stopped at 40 yards, gave me no shot whatsoever. It was a frontal shot. I wasn't going to take a frontal shot with a compound bow. That spike walks out, dude, and walks over to the Wingspan buck, and I'm filming it, and I replayed the footage, and I watched when I got home. I'm like, there's no way he busted me from scent because I was downwind. There's no way he saw me in the tree. I said, what the hell happened there? And I'm looking at it. Dude, that spike horn flinched. Just a small little flinch, exactly like that. For whatever reason, it could have been a fly on his butt cheeks. Who knows?
I see him do that all the time on trail cams.
Yeah, but the spike horn flinched, and dude, the Wingspan buck did not like that. He turned right around and went right back from where he got. I got great footage of him and everything, and that was it for the day. So, day 2, I was there for Daggers, right? I get out of the stand at 7 o'clock. I have 0 service in this location. I'm driving home. Daggers was under my stand on trail camera on the Oak Ridge, 0.15 miles away at 6:02. I picked the wrong stand. And I remember calling Jake Bennett. I'm like, dude, where do I go? Where do I go? Where do I go? He's like, go back to where you just saw him the night before, you crazy bastard. I'm like, all right, I'll do that. And I remember texting Jake. I'm like, he was at the stand I wanted to go to, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, shut up. And I was.
I remember you called. What were you asking me? You called me and asked
I asked you. You're right. Remember that day I called you and I said, where should I go? Should I go to the food or should I go to where he's betting?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, you should probably go to food. So you were telling me to go there and I didn't. And I listened to Jake and I went back to betting. So I was like, oh my God, you just got to go with your gut. You know what I mean? Because I remember texting you and then I had no service because I went into where I was going. And I texted you when I got out and I'm like, you were right. He was at that stand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So day 3, nothing. Day 4, nothing. I'm hunting the Oak Ridge, and this leads us into kill day. And dude, I went to work at 7 p.m. on October 6th, and I worked a detail until 4 in the morning. Well, I worked a detail till 5 in the morning the very next day, October 7th. And the detail was supposed to get out at 4 o'clock in the morning, but it ended up going an extra hour long. So I remember it being 5 in the morning. I'm like, oh man, I'm just going to go home and go to bed. Like, it's supposed to be like 75 degrees out today on October 7th. I'm like, I am not going hunting. Like, screw this. I remember getting back to the station. I look at my phone under the Moultrie app, and I see that Daggers and Uncle Fester, another buck that I'm after, was on trail camera on the Oak Ridge under my tree stand at 4:55 in the morning. It's now like 5:05 in the morning. I'm like, oh, how can I go home? You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not going to go home. This is why would I ever go home? Like, I hunt so many hours. Why would I ever go home right now to go to bed? Like, I don't need sleep, Yeah. And it's so funny, man, because it like resonated in my mind. I'm like, I put up a tree stand in that swamp for this reason.
Yeah.
Early season, hot day. Daggers is on the Oak Ridge, 800 yards away. Where the hell is he going to go bed? I guarantee you he's going to that swamp. It's cool, it's wet, and it's super thick. Now the question is, how am I going to get into that spot late? Because I just got out of my detail at 5 in the morning. I'm not going to get there till probably like 5:36. So I ended up getting in there at like 5:55, 6 o'clock. I sneak in. Everything's good. I'm in the stand. I don't see anything. Nothing. And it's super hot. I'm getting agitated and whatnot. 9:30 in the morning rolls around. I text my wife. I'm like, hey, I'm coming home. I'm like, this sucks. There's going to be absolutely zero deer movement.
Hot as hell. I just want to come hang out with you guys.
I'm tired. I'm aggravated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's like, all right, sounds good. I remember taking my arrow out of my bow, putting it in the quiver. I remember packing up everything that I had, putting it in my backpack. And like right before you get down from the stand, you kind of do like a 360-degree look.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like looking around like,
Yeah.
is there something here that I'm missing?
100%.
I remember doing that.
And I also like pack up slowly on purpose. Mm-hmm. When it's time to leave,
Same.
I'm like, all right, it's going to be I'm going to do it very slowly. And I try not to before last legal light, but sometimes it is getting pretty dark if it's overcast or whatever. And it's like, I'm going to start packing up 10 minutes early or whatever.
Agree.
And you go real slow.
Yep.
Because you're just hoping. You're like,
but you kind of want to get out of there before
come
it's
on.
like too dark too.
Yeah, but you're like, come on.
Yeah.
Something start coming. Let me hear the come on.
So I got 1 foot on the ladder going down, and I look around, and I see this like tree moving at like 85 yards. I'm like, what the frig is that, man? Like that ain't normal. There's zero. It's like super calm and warm. So I look again. I see antlers. At this point in time, I did not know it was daggers. I didn't know what buck it was. No clue. But I got right back in my stand, unloaded all my stuff, texted Rihanna. I'm like, hey, I'm not coming home right now. There's a buck nearby.
Yep.
So I didn't have my camera because I worked the night before. I had no battery on my Sony, so I'm using my phone. I'm using my GoPro, and I'm checking out this buck, and I see antlers, but I don't know what it is. So that was at 9:30. 11:30 rolls around in the morning, and at this point, I don't know where the hell that buck went. I don't even know if that buck's still there. I just hope that buck bedded down, and I'm just waiting and waiting. Dude, abutting this swamp is like this old, run-down, abandoned, like, dude, piece of junk of like an old farmhouse. Just awful. And in the backyard, it's all thick and there's a little strip of grass.
You should buy that shit, dude.
Yeah, I really should. From where I'm at, I got my binos and I'm looking and I see a big landscape truck pulling the parking lot.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, what the heck is this? Now, a couple things are running through my mind. Are these landscapers going to even come near this swamp? Are they going to jump this buck that I don't know what buck it is, but I know it's a decent buck? Like, what's going on? Like, a lot of things are going through my mind.
It's all very peaceful, dude. You know, it's quiet.
It was super quiet.
It's like the reverse of like the
Correct.
9-pointer and shit, where it's like loud and then all of a sudden it gets quiet. It sucks when it's very quiet and then you're approaching the time where it's going to be the best, the last hour and a half.
Yep.
And then some shit starts happening and I get pissed every time. It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah. So the lawnmowers, bum, 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 I'm like, oh, here we go. And then you hear the weed whackers start whipping and turning on and everything like that. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to turn this GoPro on right now because it's all I have. I'm going to angle it to the run that I've been getting a lot of deer on trail camera, but I have never gotten daggers on trail camera in that swamp once. Never. I got him on the outside of that swamp once in 2021 hitting a scrape. Inside that swamp, I never got a picture of daggers. I've gotten pictures of other bucks, but never daggers. Ever.
Crazy shit about swamps is once you're inside the swamp, there's 8 million trails.
Oh, yeah.
So like
Tons.
once you're in there, it's like a vortex. It's like
Yep.
they just go
Wherever
every
the hell
which
they're
way. It's
going.
harder to get a picture
Yep.
inside a swamp,
Yep.
I feel like, than
Yep.
outside. You know?
And a big piece of advice is don't just base everything off a trail camera because it only gives you a small percentage of what's
Totally, dude.
You know what I mean?
If you were sitting in the same tree that the trail camera was on, you would see 4 times the deer.
there. Yep, 100%.
Even more sometimes,
Yep.
yeah. It's,
So I turn the GoPro on. I'm like, well, if they jump whatever this buck is, hopefully he'll run down here where he feels like a little more safer. So like 10 minutes goes by, they're cutting the grass, nothing. I'm like stiff as a dog just watching that area to see if I see anything move. All of a sudden, I hear the landscapers like yelling back and forth to each other, and this other guy, I hear a weed whacker getting closer and closer. They're whipping the side of the grass like that abuts that swamp, like getting probably too close.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I see this buck stand up, and it's daggers. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me! Like, dude, it was just like, what just happened? I wasn't even excited. All I could think about was like, that buck's probably gonna run down those condominium, the edge of that condominium.
which they do most of the time. Like, even when you're trying to bump a deer, like I did. My dad and my uncle were here last week, and you try to push deer to them, and every time I did get up, like I would sit in the good hours, and then it'd be like 9 in the morning or something, and I'd be like, I'm gonna get up and do a swing around and try to strategically get through some bedding areas to push them to you, and I would jump deer. I'd be like, oh, it's going right towards you, Andy.
Yep.
Or it's going right towards you, Dad, and they never see the deer.
Right.
Because after they get out of my sight, whatever. They're not just going to not going right towards where they were.
Correct.
They're going to do all kinds of
they're going to
shit.
veer off.
They
A lot of times they'll circle
They
back
never
around
seem
downwind.
to do what you want them to.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll circle back around downwind from where that danger came from. It's weird.
Totally.
But, so I see him stand up, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, at this point, I'm like, record on the GoPro. Like, obviously, I'm not getting any footage of him whatsoever, but I'm like, if he comes this way, I'm going to have a shot. Man, he, like, talking about, like, King of the Woods, man, or King of the Swamp on that day, he just stood up, man, and I remember him looking back, like, where the weed whacker was, looked forward, and just slowly started walking down to the creek where I manipulated that run. And I'm like, oh my God, please go where I want you to go. Go around that stuffed area. Dude, he went exactly to script where I wanted him to go.
That's sick, man. That's preparation.
Like, dude, it was crazy. He hit the creek. He took like a couple sips of water, and then I'm like, oh boy, he's coming right to me. Like, he's coming. Jumped over the creek, and then he actually started like picking up his pace.
So it's cool. He didn't walk through. He jumped over.
He jumped over the creek, and I mean, like, that creek's probably like 4 or 5 feet wide.
Yeah,
he jumped over.
It's small.
It,
I've seen it in there, and it's like deer will when they have the opportunity to, they will avoid getting their feet wet.
100%. He jumped right over it, dude. Like, I mean, right over it. And at that point, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Like, this is it. And I remember I could barely see him through like the thick cover along that run, but I could just see his rack. And he started like kind of picking up he started coming like with a trot. I just pulled back, and there was 2 saplings and like probably like a 4 foot wide opening right there.
How many times had you freaking
Dude, I range find that area like 30 times, man. It was 21 yards exact. Like, I knew that spot.
I do the same shit. It's like, oh, that's the prime lane. Just every 20
It was 21
minutes.
yards.
What is it again? All right, it's 21.
It was 21 yards exact, and then I had a tree behind it, which was at like 30 yards. Dude, he comes right down this run. The run that was going by my trail camera all summer. And I never had a camera and never had a picture of him.
Yep.
And here he comes, man. And I knew I had a small window. And I remember like 5 yards before he hit that window, I just, Matt. And dude, it was supposed to happen. He stopped in that window so perfectly.
Yeah.
And I just absolutely smoked him.
And the video is so sick. Everybody has to go to this page, watch that video. It's freaking awesome. It happened so fast.
It happened just so fast.
Dude, awesome fucking buck. An awesome story.
And then that was it, man. That's the writing on the wall right there with Daggers. And it just, man, if they're like, it's just, I have so many people to thank. I can't thank the amount of people because I can't even remember everybody. But I do want to give my wife a big shout out because she is so supportive in my drive and my passion to chase these whitetails. She is very, very patient. She's very supportive. Same with my son Beckett. Same with my daughter Rosalina. Even my dog, man. I'll come home from a long hunting all day, and dude, that dog, Mace is so happy to see me, dude. And I just can't thank them enough. And I feel bad for the guys that have wives that don't like them hunting because really to be successful, you need that supporting cast, and it's very, very, very important. I'm very thankful to have that. Really, I am.
It's funny too because I just did a quick podcast with Joe Pietrzello from Northeast Taxidermy. I brought my chocolate rack Euro that I did last year because the coyotes got to that deer. I brought it down and put the cape on it from the deer that I killed this year because it was the same day, October 6th, both years, which was cool. And he had a blonde rack. I brought it down to Joe. We did a quick podcast. And we were talking, and he's like, look, we started talking about the balance of hunting and life and how once you get obsessed into hunting, it can put a strain on a lot of your life or ruin your life.
For sure.
In some ways.
Like anything.
It can make your life way better. It can also ruin it.
Yep.
And he was like, dude, I have clients. I see it every day. He's a taxidermist and the best in the Northeast. You know, one of the best in the Northeast anyway. I'm not going to discount my boy up in Vermont, Pete LaJoy, who is my next, 10 miles down the road. And Pete LaJoy is maybe the best taxidermist in the Northeast. I know there's a lot of people watching this that probably would agree with that too. But, dude, he's like, I see it every day. People come in, and some of them ruin their whole lives. Get divorces, don't see their kids, all this stuff because they become so obsessed with hunting that it does kind of destroy everything else. And
it's
that
true.
again, like I can feel myself getting to an obsession point where there can be some strains, but I will never let it get to that point. And talking with him kind of opened it up a little bit for me too. It's like, you just can never let it get to that point.
I mean, I have an addictive personality. We've talked about that
too.
over the course
Yep.
of 3 years since I've known you, really. And I even knew you before that from Bowsight. Remember that?
Yeah.
So I have a very addictive personality, and I think that's what contributes to some of my success because I put a lot of work in.
100%, dude.
I put it. I don't
put it
just
in
got. I
everything,
mean,
too.
I put so much hard work into this. Like a lot of people don't understand. Like, you get those guys that are must be nice guys. Like they don't see the amount of hours that goes into this. I mean, I honestly put more hours into this than my job, and I work 80 hours a week at my job. There's a lot of work that goes into this, and yes, it can become straining on the family and whatnot. And with like I have an addictive personality, so I'm completely addicted to hunting and the chase and the love for the outdoors. But the good thing about having a supporting cast at home is that they can join you on these adventures. My wife comes shed hunting with me, with my son Beckett and Rosalina. My dog loves going outside. I feel like if you do incorporate your family into the stories, into the adventures, into the journeys, it makes for a great family retreat too. And
Yeah.
it's a great family hobby. It really is. If that person, significant other, enjoys it as much, you know what I mean? I mean, Rihanna, she loves the outdoors. She loves the outdoors. She loves going hunting. She ain't gonna kill anything. She ain't gonna gut anything. She doesn't like that aspect of it, but she understands how much I love it, and she supports it. And that's what a good wife does.
Yep. 100%, dude. And like if you just as long as like everybody in the family enjoys, respects it a little bit, and also like I haven't hunted since I killed that buck last week. For a lot of people, and if anybody who's watching this who has an addictive personality, it's like try to not drink a beer for a week or
Right.
try to not whatever it is that you're addicted to, do that for a week. It's
Hard,
pretty,
man. Yeah.
It's pretty tough.
I think I took like 2 days off after I killed Daggers, and I was back in the stand.
Yeah, but it was like, you know what? I killed that buck, and
Great buck at that.
and
Very great buck.
And I do want to get like a big one now, 135, hopefully plus. Like I want to wait for that. Now let a 125 walk in front of me. After I say that, I'll probably shoot the crap out.
Dude, I was in the stand last
But-
night, and I had a little scrub 7-pointer walk by, and I honestly had my bow up with my camera ready to rock on him at 24 yards, ready to shoot him. Dude, small little scrub, man. Probably would have been like an 85 incher. But
Yeah.
it's just, dude, it's the love.
And dude, it's the case
I
in
love
point.
it.
This buck that I shot that you guys saw on YouTube, I green scored him just about 110. But when he was coming in, and it was the first buck of the year, and my dad and hunting with my dad and my uncle and everything, I was shaking that first night I saw him.
But it's a great
and
buck.
I thought he was, and I'm of course in that buck. Like I'm so, dude. It's all about that feeling as they're walking in. You have to know whether you're gonna shoot him or not. It's
Correct.
funny because I was talking with Jake Bennett the week before the season opened too. And I sent him a picture of this 9-pointer I had on camera, and I said, I'm having a debate with myself right now before the season even started. If this 9-pointer walks in front of me, would I shoot him or not?
Mm-hmm.
And Jake's like, well, are you going for age or score? Or like, what's your goal? And I'm like, I want to shoot a mature buck. That's pretty much it. I don't really care about the score. But he was like, well, what are you debating on? I'm like, well, I don't have any history. This place I killed this buck in was a brand new spot I had never even found until about 10 days before the season.
Yep.
I went in there and started late scouting it. and I just didn't have history. I was like, and I have probably $10 bigger than him on camera, right? And I still do. I got 10, maybe more, $15 bigger than that 9, and probably 20 bigger than the 8 that I end up shooting.
Yep.
But it's like, I don't know if I want to kill that buck. So then, the first time I see this 8-pointer come in, I'm in the stand, and I knew instantly, if he comes within range, I'm shooting that deer. I'm shaking. I'm ready for it. Just see him coming in, first buck of the year too, and I'm shooting that thing. I didn't shoot him that day. I shot him 2 days later. Ended up killing him. He was a 1 to 12 inch 8-pointer, and then I check a camera on the way out, and I see the 9-pointer that I was debating with Jake if I would shoot him if he came by, and the 8-pointer in the same. They rolled together. And they were standing in the same straight.
He was close.
Right next to each other. And that 9-pointer is so much bigger than the 8-pointer. And it's just so why would you even wonder to yourself? Just wait until the deer comes in and then tell you, you're going to feel it inside of you.
Right.
If you're going to shoot that deer or not. If you start getting shakes and nervousness and you're like, oh shit, and that whole thing starts building, you're going to shoot that deer. Wait until it happens. Wait till you see it.
I mean, I think, going back to what we said about my 2021 year, it's not about the size. It's not about the inches. I think to everybody just getting into hunting, if you go into hunting with the mindset of having fun, but also shooting something that gets you going and gets your adrenaline rolling and you're excited to shoot that animal,
Yep.
every single harvest, if you make the decision to take the life of an animal, you should hold that animal into consideration as a trophy, and that's how it should be. The unfortunate part about the hunting community that we are currently involved in now is there are a lot of good guys out there. There is a lot of positivity, but there is also still a lot of negativity. There are people that you may have been friends with last year or 5 years ago that you're not friends with now, that their main objective is to try to bring somebody down when they're doing so well and they're being successful. It's just there's a lot of negativity in there, and it's really disgusting, and it shouldn't even be there. It shouldn't matter about the size. It shouldn't matter about likability or anything like that. If you are a new hunter in getting into the hunting world, do what you want to do that makes you happy. Don't worry about what other people think. And I think that's
100%.
what I think that was
Struggled
my
with
issue in
last year.
2021.
Yeah.
I cared too much what people think.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, 2022, different man. I don't care what people say about me. People talk about me all the time. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care.
I've had this conversation with Jake so many times too, because Jake struggled with a lot of that before, and he's not gonna mind that I bring it up. But it's like I've talked to them so many times. Like, dude, stop worrying about other people.
It's so true.
And if you've made any kind of a mistake before, you can admit it, and you've talked about it on podcasts, whatever, and you're not making that mistake anymore. Jake is one of the best hunters I've ever met in my life.
100%.
He's
The most
fucking
knowledgeable guy I've ever
incredible
met.
hunter.
Yep.
And it's like, but don't let what other people think about you ever fucking influence anything that you're doing.
With success comes negative people.
Yeah.
When you're successful, people are going to try to bring you down. When you're on a high, people are going to try to bring you down. And it may be people that you may once have been friends with.
Yeah.
And you're not anymore. And, those type of people that are like that, they're irrelevant.
To
And
me,
that's the way it
dude,
is.
and I agree. But in my life, there have been people like that, and people who I've been really, really good friends with, and stuck my neck out for, and they betrayed me and made me look like a bad person to the people that I stuck my neck out for to them. And this happened to me a lot in my life. And I used to be just straight up cut that person off, never going to be a part of my life again. But over the last few years, I've started to kind of just change a little bit in that mindset. And one person who really wronged me, I was able to find it within myself to forgive that person. And it feels really good.
Yeah.
When that happens, it feels really good for both people. A giant stress and weight gets lifted. If you can find forgiveness in your heart, sometimes it's a good thing. And I hope people do that at Hunt Stock. And I saw it with Jake. Jake had some beefs with people, and he squashed a couple of them at Hunt Stock.
He did.
Jake's
He did, and I saw it
Jake's the kind of
firsthand.
guy he
Yeah.
can get into beefs with people. He's like you say,
Yeah.
he's brash, he's abrasive.
Yeah, he's blunt, but he
And-
knows his stuff,
Yep.
and
Yep.
you know, and I agree
like,
with that. Life's too short.
Fucking squash it when you can, and
I
if you
agree.
can, and I want Hunt Stock to be that way. So if anybody's listening that wants to like,
I agree, man.
you know,
Life is way too short to hold grudges, to dwell on the past. We all need to just move forward. We all have the same objective. We want to have
Yep.
fun. We want to make memories, and we want to harvest bucks.
yeah,
Or does, whatever it may be.
Yep.
And everybody's at a different caliber. You know what I mean? You know, somebody that's hunting 20 years, they're not going to have the same mindset as somebody that's been hunting for a year or 2 years. But we're all together. We're all a brotherhood and sisterhood and, you know, fraternity, so to speak, really. You know what I mean? So I just think we all need to kind of step up in that aspect and just be positive.
100%. We'll wrap it up, but like, to wrap it up. We both killed our bucks on 70-degree days. You killed
Yes.
yours midday. Mine
Yeah,
was
11:40.
Mine
bro.
was 2 hours before like legal light when I first saw him the first time. It's like, and a lot of people out there will, you know, are the kind of guys like, oh, 70 degrees, it's too hot, I'm not hunting today, I can't hunt, or they'll debate with themselves if they're gonna do that. And I just think, dude, you spend all year thinking about the days that you can hunt. And if there's a day that you actually have time to go do it, you're not doing, like, you can go out and get out and hunt, but it's in the high 70s or 80s, whatever. And I was hunting in North Dakota. It was 100 almost every day.
Yep.
Get out there and hunt. And just to tie that together, Pat Burns' nephew, Mikkel.
Yes,
Cal-
great kid,
I
man.
like him
Awesome
too, yeah.
awesome guy.
Yep.
I follow him on Instagram. He's such a good kid.
Yeah.
Such a good kid.
I like that kid a lot.
Yep.
And he won't mind I bring him up either. The other day he was like, oh, I just finally, like, I shouted him out in a podcast last year. He just heard it a few weeks ago. He was like, dude, I just listened to this. That's hilarious. He said on the day I killed that buck and the day before you killed yours, it was 145. And this is the 2022 Rutpocalypse thing. I don't know if you're on that.
I am on that, yeah.
He goes, sit or not today, right? Because it was hot. It was supposed to be hot. And Jake, I'd stand, right? A bunch of people are chiming in with shit. He's like, yeah, I had five bucks in a spot all day last Thursday, but it's hot today. Another guy, Rob Cody, comes in. My cams are dead today, right?
Rob Cody, great guy,
Yeah.
smart.
My cams are dead. Other people, I'm debating the same thing. Pretty warm. Might go sit at the cornfield. And I came in. It was 4:02. This is about 1 hour before that buck comes in. I was like, my cams were dead yesterday and today, but I think they'll be out feeding tonight and freshening up scrapes after the rain. And it's only 70 degrees. After hunting in 100 degrees North Dakota, this is practically air conditioning. And Jake comes in. These deer didn't vacation in North Dakota this year. And I was just like, listen, this is 426 now. We're getting closer. I said, listen, I killed a nice buck on 70-degree day last year, too, that chocolate rack.
Yep.
They still need to get up and move. So Jake was like, yeah, they are killable, right? And then people go into a whole trail cam shit. It's just funny that at 4:30 I said that. And then I chimed back in at 5:39. Just killed an 8-point in 70-degree weather, boys. Right?
I saw that, yeah.
Everyone's
saw
like,
that,
what
yeah.
the fuck?
Yeah, I saw
You
that.
can't
yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, get out there and hunt them when you can.
Dude,
mate. Just get out there and
it's
hunt
been
'em.
pouring since 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You and I were out there before this whole podcast and premiere
Yeah.
even started, getting soaked.
And days like this where it's pouring
Deer move,
and it's
man.
windy, you know, I'm not gonna sit in one spot. And today it was supposed to be like 40 mile per hour gusts. So I was looking at it, and the wind was it was southeast wind,
Yep.
which was weird. And I was like, whenever those weird winds happen, it allows you to access places you normally hunt from the opposite side,
Going
which
mobile.
is cool.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yep.
Because it's normally a northwest wind, so you always access that way, the same way, southeast. This is the opposite. It allows you to get a different vantage point on the place that you normally hunt.
Correct.
And just get out there and walk, which is active. It's like what trackers love about tracking. You're just staying. So I love that. I'm not expecting to go kill a deer in the weather it was today.
But you still
I
want
was
to be
like,
out there.
I have 3 hours to take a walk through the woods from a different vantage point, to go through bedding. I learned a bunch of new shit today too. Just
And what better way to spend 3 hours that you have to yourself?
No better way.
There's no better way.
Dude, I'm super proud of you. You've been getting better at hunting every single day. You got your target buck. It was on film perfectly. I mean, I'm super happy for you, excited for you, dude.
I appreciate it, man, and congratulations to you too. And you know, man, I've been on this podcast 3 times since 2020, and it's just what you've done has been remarkable, and you've brought that community into, you know, that tight spot where we need to be with hunt stock. And I think you and Pat Burns have done a tremendous job with it. I can't wait to go to it next year, and I can't say how many people have actually brought up the fact that hunt stock is just exactly what we needed, and
Yeah.
it is true 100%.
That was the coolest
I can't say
thing,
enough
man.
about it, man.
That was the coolest thing for me and Pat. It was like you had the vision, and then just seeing how everybody felt. The energy in the air was.
man.
I've never felt that energy before. Everybody was on cloud 9. It felt like,
Man,
so that
it
it
was just
lifted
unreal.
everybody's energies up, and it was just really, really cool. And
And you see these guys that you only know through social media and through like Facebook and YouTube, and you see them in person, and like for a hunter, like those are like our hunting celebrities. You know what I mean? So to be able to meet them and talk with them and actually like push ideas off on one another, like it's just so cool, man. It was really awesome.
yeah, I was so
And
happy
to be a
with
part of it was even better.
Yep, and you were there on day 1, dude, and you're gonna be there as
Can't
long
wait,
as it's
man.
around. I'm sure.
Can't wait.
Dude.
Me and Nate are already thinking about what we're going to be doing. So
Awesome, dude. Again, thanks a lot.
thank you, brother.
Yeah, and then we'll be talking soon, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Next buck premiere.